Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Digital to Dice podcast. I am Dave.
I'm Ron.
Episode 82. What do you got, Ron?
The Raymond Barry episode.
Ooh, Barry the Bears?
Barry the Bear. Yes.
Remember Barry the Bears?
No, I remember Squish the Fish.
Yeah, well, we didn't quite bury the Bears.
You didn't? No. But you did squish the fish.
We did squish the fish. We just didn't bury the Bears. But anyway, episode 82 of Digital to Dice.
You know, when he coached the Patriots, I did not realize that he was the best wide receiver of his day.
Yeah.
They didn't really show a lot of those clips. They showed a lot of him standing around the sideline with a hat looking like he didn't know what the heck he was doing. But I didn't realize that he was the wide receiver of his day. He
was the man. So, in episode 82 of the Raymond Barry episode. Ways to get a hold of us, digitaltodice.com is our website where we park all of the shows over on Spreaker. 978-751-DICE, 978-751-3423 is the text line. Digitaltodice at yahoo.com is the email. And over on Facebook, the groups, which is growing, Ron. Holy cow. We had
almost at 700.
We had 666 the other day. I was like, yeah, somebody else sign up.
That should be a good group, isn't it?
It was. Facebook.com/groups/digital to dice. And we've had some really great videos that people have posted, first looks, reviews of games,
yes,
even a couple of book reviews we've had there. So this is all the stuff that's really, really fun is when people post the first looks in the brand new game to come out and they take a look at them and break them down and in the whole bit. And a shout out to T-Bone. I'm calling him T-Bone, Ron. I'm going to call him T-Bone. T-Bone has been doing some great Apple hockey videos. I'm getting excited about playing Apple hockey. I just ordered Apple hockey, by the way, so that should be coming in hopefully soon. But T-Bone has been doing some great jobs, a great job on YouTube with his Apple videos. Really getting me excited to play it. So we'll see how that goes when I get it in. Anyway, in episode 82 here, we have a really great interview with Ian Brooke. He is the creator of On Deck Baseball, a brand new fictional baseball game. And we're going to check that interview out right now. Joining us on the dice line is the creator of a brand new fictional baseball game called On Deck Baseball. It is Ian Brooke. Ian, welcome to the show.
Hey, guys. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you having me on.
Thanks for being on.
Yeah, so we're here with, obviously, myself and Ron here on Digital to Dice. And before we get going here and talk about the baseball game, we have one question that we ask all of our guests. That question is, what sporting event would you attend if you could go back in time and attend any sporting event?
All right. Well, it would actually be, I don't know if you would consider, I mean, it is a sporting event, but it would be Lou Gehrig giving his speech.
Oh, wow.
July 4/39, doubleheader.
Yeah.
Okay. That's interesting.
I read the Lou Gehrig book when I was in college. I actually took a baseball history course, which was the best course I ever took in college, and probably the best anybody listening to this could probably ever take. And that was one of the books. Yeah, that was one of the books that was required reading, and it was one of the best books I've ever read. And so much respect for that individual and favorite Yankee all time. So that would be it. Which is odd because you'd think you'd want to see him play, but I think there was just so much command in his voice for what he was going through, and it just, it's a lot of respect there. So
especially the unknown of what that event was going to be.
Yeah.
Fantastic. That's great. All right, so let's get into some more baseball talk here. What were some of the early games that you played? Like what got you into gaming?
Well, I played board games early on. I played it a lot with my brother, played a lot with my dad. But going into the sports, I, like most of us, probably was Stratomatic. I feel like everybody has kind of played that. I also played the round one with the spinners, All-Star Baseball, I think it was called.
Cadco, or
Cadco or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that one never really kind of grabbed my attention, but Stratomatic certainly was the one that we played. Played that a lot with my friends, played that a lot with my dad, my brother. Obviously, playing with my friends, we played a very basic version of it. You see who got the card, and you rolled, and then that was the result. But that's definitely what got it started.
Those old spinner games, you see them on eBay once in a while, and I played some of those as a kid. Maybe not the sports games so much, but those spinners, they always just malfunctioned and the board warped, and it just.
What happens when you got them on the line? It's a homer. Yeah. It's a strikeout. You stole my girlfriend, and then the fight starts.
Yeah, you spend 20 minutes arguing, you forget that you're playing a game.
Yeah,
that sounds like a typical sibling night, anyway, doesn't it?
Yeah, very much so.
So you're wearing a Yankee hat. So did your dad always play the Yankees? And what teams were you forced to play when you couldn't? Or did you just flip, Yankee versus Yankee team?
To be perfectly honest, when we played Stratomatic, I can't honestly remember all of the teams that we played. We just kind of played. I do remember, like, when I was younger, we would go to Mets and Yankee games religiously. We would go a lot, and my dad was probably more of a Met fan, which is probably why I'm a Yankee fan. But
why I'm a Red Sox fan, my father was a Yankee fan. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. I mean, that's just kind of how it works, I guess. But my dad and I were definitely more baseball fans than anything else. We used to go to Cooperstown all the time. Used to take great family trips up there and hit off different places. And I think just baseball in general is the driving force in my life for most of my life.
My first game ever was at Shea. So.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think my dad said one of his first games was actually seeing Koufax pitch.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right, so you're playing some games, Strat. You're playing those little spinny games there. What made you decide to work on a game, create your own game?
So when I was younger, I was never really into the whole replay thing. And whenever we would play Stratomatic, with my friends anyway, we would always either pull all the players together and kind of pick our own teams, do little fantasy teams, because I was always very caught up in, if you have one team and your best player or your favorite player got traded, like, are you making that trade? Are you sticking with that team anymore? Or what are you doing? And it just never really clicked with me like that, to play replays like that. So we either pulled all the players together, or eventually we started actually making our own players, and we would take football player cards, not baseball player cards, because they were different names, and we put them in 2 stacks, and we would pull the top of each stack off, and then that would be the name of the fictional player we were creating. So you would get, like, I don't know, like Jerry Montana, like something crazy, but that would be the name, and that's just kind of how we would go. And at first it kind of started where we would just put those names on top of the Stratomatic cards, so we just kind of forgot who the real player was, but we still had the cards emulating that player's statistics. But then eventually we just kind of started, or I guess I kind of started evolving into making my own cards. And I would make tiny little cards, probably baseball card size, put 2 columns on it, just numbered it 2 to 12, because, you play down with, 2 D6s back then. And we would just have results that way. And I had guys with, like, if there's 22 results in a card, it would be like 11 home runs, like it was like a home run derby more than anything.
League baseball. There you go.
Yeah. It was pure action. But that's kind of how it all kind of started. And it just kind of evolved from there. I was living in New York at the time. And it all kind of ceased when I went to college. I was playing ball in college, and then moved down here and started kind of getting back into it. And there was another game called Mlb Showdown. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that one. Yeah, I think it was actually made maybe by Topps or somebody else.
Yeah, it was a turn of the 20th.
And you bought packs, and it had a variety of cards. It wasn't like you were buying a set, and you could build your teams like that. So we started playing like that. And I actually got into some of the mechanics of that game, and some of the mechanics of my game are somewhat modeled after a couple of the different things that were in that game, incorporated in that game. But obviously I kind of took it in a whole different direction. So it's kind of just evolved from there. And then I started working in a pharmacy, and pharmacy just had a lot of downtime. So I started thinking, why not just make an entire game? And I started working on a mechanic, started working on what would be the best way to represent the results of a baseball player on the back of a card. Worked out all the equations, making sure that the math was right, and eventually evolved into on-deck baseball over the course of probably 10 years.
How'd you come up with the name?
Ootp? Because it's got a lot of fictional stuff involved. I think that's why their bread and butter is the fictional part of baseball.
Yeah, I have it on my computer. I don't have the newest version. I think I have 2 years ago. But I did enjoy that. Yeah, with everything going on, I really haven't had a chance to play much.
You've been busy.
I've been busy. Yeah.
How much of an inspiration that is, because you could set that baseball universe to, if you want to play Lord of the Rings. Mm-hmm. If you want the Middle Earth, shamans, then you can make it.
It's really funny, because once the pre-order started and I started kind of shipping out games within last week, I've had a couple of people actually ask me if I can make like fantasy baseball characters like orcs and gremlins and stuff like that. And I'm like, I don't know enough about it. So I don't know, maybe in the future.
Yeah, that'd be a nice little, DLC or download or expansion. Just have a Middle Earth, expansion, team or something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, how'd you come up with the name On Deck?
So the game started out called Dynasty Baseball, and I'm sure there's Dynasty League Baseball that's already out there.
They've asked to be on the show, as a matter of fact. So yes, we are familiar.
And I didn't even know that because I didn't get onto these forums. I didn't really think that tabletop baseball was a huge thing. It was just kind of something that my friends and I played. But when I started looking into marketing and started looking into all these different games, that was obviously taken. So I had to come up with something new. And I had a few different names that I was bouncing around. But I had a couple of buddies of mine, Casey in Ohio, Jason here, and Adam here in town. And we kind of came across On Deck Baseball because if you think about it, when you're on the On Deck circle or any On Deck circle on a baseball game, you're watching the action take place, but you're still on the field. And that's kind of the feel of this game. You're kind of outside of the game, but you're playing it at the same time. So you're looking at it in that kind of viewpoint. And that name just kind of stuck from there. And it was difficult to come up with it. And then I really hated giving up the whole Dynasty League or Dynasty Baseball. But I grew to On Deck Baseball, and I really like it. So
that's good.
Okay, so let's move on to the game itself. Now, this is it's a printed game. It's a board game, right? It's not an electronic game, right?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a tabletop dice baseball game.
Okay. Now, the cards, I'm looking at the cards now, and they look to be decent size. They look to be, a little bit bigger than your hand, I would think, right? They're not app or a strat size. They're a little bit bigger, right?
They are 5x8, and I do it on premium cardstock, which was very difficult to find. I have a guy in New York who actually supplies me with that cardstock. I started out by using 5x8 index cards, and I think I posted a picture early on my Facebook page of the two different cards on top of each other. And the index cards would fold. There was probably about a 2.5-inch fold on it if you held it by one end. Holding the premium cardstock that I have, which is between 100 and 110 pound, it actually will hold stiff and will actually hold flat. So having those two cards back to back, it really showed the difference in the quality and how a premium card actually helps out with the game content. And then being able to have that size card allowed me to put all the charts on the back as opposed to having a bunch of different external charts, which is...
Now, it's not just names on a card. You have illustrations of all the players. And tell us about how that came out and set of pictures and all that. I mean, it's a really, really well-designed... You get a good sense of who that player is.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it's all the characters are individuals. And I have an artist who is actually in Indonesia who I get all my artwork from. And I submit a pose that I want this player to have. And he does the artwork on it. And I tell him the color uniform so they match all the different teams that, we're building. And he, submits the idea to me and I approve it. And he sends over the final product. And he's in Indonesia and he's actually putting himself through college with the amount of artwork that he's done with me, which is something that I'm very proud of.
How did you find someone in Indonesia to do that?
Fiverr.com.
I was going to make the Fiverr joke, and I wasn't sure. It's like, wow, that's great.
Yeah, so I just kind of stumbled upon him, and I never really got to know him personally until probably he was working on, I think, probably the second or third team for me. And I just, I was curious as to how old he was. So I asked, and it turns out he's about 19 years old.
Wow.
And his mom actually convinced him to go on to Fiverr because they were having trouble paying for college. And he went on to Fiverr because he's a good artist and he offered, his services. And I guess it was probably 2 days before I found him. I found him and gave him some work, and he's been making characters for me ever since. And he said that his mom thanks me for giving him this work. And he's like buying his textbooks and all this different equipment. But he's actually going to art school.
Really, he could probably teach art school. I mean, those pictures are very good. Yeah. So walk us through what comes. I know you've already got an expansion pack out.
I do. I have 2 expansion packs out.
Walk us through what actually comes with, if you buy the game, what actually comes with it.
Okay, so if you buy the base set, set will come with 6 teams. Mm-hmm. That's going to include another card that is like a record tracker, so you can keep track of your record. It will come with schedules for each team, so all those 6 teams in the base set will be included in that schedule. It comes with pitcher fatigue trackers. It comes with injury trackers. pretty much everything that will get you started right out of the box.
But so it's 25-man rosters, essentially?
25 players per team, so that's 6 teams. And it has a board. It has everything you need right out of the box. You can start your league.
And so the expansion sets, are they with teams or just players you can draft or?
So a little bit of both. I try to make it a variety. The first 2 expansion packs I have, one is what I call the league expansion. Mm-hmm. That's going to come with 2 teams, and now I'll add it into the league with the 6 teams that come with the base set. Now, in order to do that, people want to be able to play it right in their league right when they get it. So I had to include additional schedules for the 6 teams in the base set with the updated schedules with the 2 new teams. So it'll actually come with all updated schedules, the 2 new teams, the player record trackers for those 2 teams, and you'll now have it an 8-team league with everything you need to progress. Mm-hmm. The other expansion pack I have is something that's called the rookies. Now, these are all players that are going to be ages like, I think, 18 to 24. There might be a couple that snuck in there, might be 25 or 26. But that's 75 players that are all starting out in the beginning of their careers, and those are draftable into the pre-existing teams.
All right. Now, do you plan to, because it sounds like you've been relatively successful. I've seen some great pictures of hand-delivered games. Just throw in some Domino's or Pizza Hut to go with that too. Is the plan to be like what Play.com does and issue new players or aging players every year, or what? Have you thought that far ahead yet?
I have, actually, and all of these players will actually progress through their careers. So the way I look at it, when you get a card, let's say you're getting like a Stratomatic card, those players have their particular attributes and their stats that reflect the statistics that they had from the season prior. In my cards, what they do is they reflect the player's potential. The statistics that you play out is going to be based on your managerial team or your managerial decisions that you make for your team. Each year, I'll release an updated season. I don't call it like years. I call it seasons. So I'll put out season 2, hopefully within 3 to 6 months for all of these teams that will be, purchasable, and they'll be all updated players with their next year of progression. Now, obviously, like when you start out 24, 25, your potential, goes up a little bit. And when you start getting into your mid-30s, it starts going down a little bit. Players will end up, retiring at a certain age, and then new players will go into that team, into that set to replace them. All of these players right now have all of their careers mapped out. Interestingly enough, I don't know where those players' careers are mapped out myself because I randomly assigned all the names because I play a league with my friends, and it wouldn't be fair if I picked up this one guy because I knew in 5 years he was going to be a stud.
His name is Tom Brady. We'll draft him in the 6th round, and he'll never stop playing.
Exactly.
Number 1 pitcher. Good luck.
So all of them are kind of randomly assigned. So I don't even know where the players' careers progress. I mean, I do know because we played a couple of seasons in, so I know the first couple of years. Mm-hmm. But all of their careers are completely flushed out. Some of them play until the ages of 42. Some of them will end up retiring at 35. It really is kind of the luck of the draw.
Okay. Now all these players here, you said that it comes with 6 teams, but if you wanted to, you could take all the players that come with a game and just draft 6 teams. Is that what you said?
Absolutely. I actually try to encourage that because the thing about this game is I want people to kind of make it their own and do it the way they want to. And I understand that, a lot of people like the teams that are already in the game. And I'm perfectly cool with that. I like it that people are like these teams because I fell in love with these teams. My team is the Knights, and that's the team I play. But it is a great way to kind of get and learn the different players by drafting all of them out of a pool of all the players and making up your own teams. And, I kind of, when you look at the rosters that are included in the game, it kind of has a subtle hint as to like the lineups and everything that my friends and I use. If you're drafting players, you get none of that. You have to make and build your own teams, your own lineups, your own, bullpen, everything.
Okay, so the player cards themselves do not have team names on them, correct? They're just player.
Not.
Okay, good.
No, they do not have player team names, any logos or numbers that signify any particular team. So I only kept it with the colors, and I wasn't even sure that I was going to go that route, but I figured, there's only so many colors you can play with, so I might as well make it, colors that are assigned to teams.
Is there a storyline element too, or is it just straight what we would – it's not obviously a replay, but are you just playing the game, or is there storylines?
You know what? It's the storyline that the user creates.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what? You get this game in your hands and you can create any storyline you have. I don't have any like career stats for any players that are already in the game. There's nothing like that. But a lot of guys,
players don't get busted for jaywalking or juicing or anything like, You know,
it's funny because I just got artwork back I have Legends cards that I'm doing as a promo, and I got one card back, and the guy looks like a mix between Mark McGuire and Frank Thomas.
Oh,
and this guy is a beast. And I was talking to my buddy Casey in Ohio, and I was like, on the situation charts, I kind of want to do like failed a drug test for this guy, just to add it in. But I don't know that I'm going to do that.
Drafted by the NFL, you could also do if you look like that.
Yeah.
So go ahead, Dave.
So what I wanted to talk about next was the actual cards of the players and some gameplay is what I'd like to get into next. Sure. So I'm looking at the cards here, and you said they're about 5x8. They're full color cards on nice premium stock, front and back. So I'm looking at one of the cards here, and it tells you that he bats left, he throws left, he's got a value, he's got some base running things going on here, he's got his batting. Now in batting, he's got a one number here, then he's got a lefty-righty split. So does this mean that you can play, you have the option of just basic or left and right?
Sure. So what I have in the game, I built in a couple of different systems because, everybody kind of has their own levels that they want to play at. So if you look at the batting attribute, the one solid number can be played at kind of like the basic level. So that's one number. You just take it, you put it up against your pitcher, you roll the die and see what you have. But if you want to get a little bit more advanced than that, I actually broke it down into lefty-righty splits. So a lefty pitcher is going to trend a little bit better against a lefty batter than a righty batter. So you can actually play the pitch and batting matchups in your game and adjust your lineup accordingly using those attributes.
Okay. I'm looking at the card here. Obviously, the batting, the base running, the defense. Tell me a little bit about personality traits and health ratings. How does that come into play?
Okay, so the personality traits, that's going to kind of give you an inclination as to how the player's career is going to progress. Somebody who has a higher IQ, a higher work ethic, is going to probably work a little bit harder at fine-tuning their trade. They're going to probably, work on batting a little bit better. They're going to work on base stealing a little bit better. And it kind of is a little bit of like scouting attributes, if you want to look at it that way. Because when you're looking at the front of the card, again, this is all potential for the card. It doesn't necessarily relate to the exact results on the back of the card, although they do in some ways. But these personality traits are going to kind of clue you in to how you want to build your team and how you want to draft your players, either the rookie expansion pack or if you're actually putting them all into a pool and drafting your teams. The desire, loyalty, and greed will actually work into a contract negotiations. I have a spreadsheet that's actually on the OnDeckBaseballGame.com website. And you can download that. It's Excel, and you put in these attributes, and based on how your team is, whether or not they're, rebuilding, or if they're a champion, or if the guy won the MVP last year, that's all going to be built into how much they're looking for per year based on their value. Okay. So that will all tie into contract status. The health ratings below that ties into a little bit of the career growth as well. Somebody who has, like, for the batter you're looking at, his legs, arms, and back are a 2. He probably isn't going to be the greatest at the end of his career because those health risks are going to start playing on his abilities a little bit more than others. It also is taken into account when a player gets injured. You're going to have these attributes weigh in on how long the injury is going to last, whether or not he actually does get injured. So it plays into it that way.
Okay. So let's get it. Sorry, go ahead, Ron.
So is there like any managerial involvement too? Are there manager cards?
There are no manager cards. I played with the idea a little bit of doing that, but I really struggled with the idea of how to get them involved enough to make it worth it. It seemed like I only had like 3 or 4 ways that the managerial card was actually going to be played out, and I just didn't feel like it was worth it going in that dynamic to have that much more complication added to the game for something that didn't weigh in enough.
Okay, so let's turn to some gameplay now. So you have your batter, you have your pitcher, you have your cards next to each other, and run us through an at-bat, shall we?
Okay. So what we're going to do is what I call a confrontation roll. Now, this roll is something that's applied to different aspects of the game throughout the game, but we're going to do it for the batting. The cards you're looking at is Nate Bowerman, who's a lefty pitcher, and Howard Hawley, who is a lefty batter. So we're going to run it off of the lefty-righty splits. The Bowerman's versus left-handed batter attribute is a -5, and Howard Holly's versus left-handed pitcher is a 3. So you add those two numbers together, which is a -2. And you're going to apply that to the confrontation roll. And if it's 6 or above, it's a batter's card. If it's 5 or below, it would be a pitcher's card. So we're going to go ahead and roll that. I got a 5, so it's 5 minus 2, which is going to be 3, which would mean that it's a pitcher's card. Once you have that result, you're going to look at the back of the pitcher's card, and you'll see what is called the pitcher's matrix, which is the batting matrix for the batter on the back of the pitcher's card. You'll roll a red and a blue die, both D10s numbered 1 to 10. For the results, and I have a blue 9 and a red 6, which would mean that he just gave up a walk on Holly. So Holly would take first base on the walk. And that's basically how all of the at-bats will play out. It will dictate whether or not it's going to be on the back of a pitcher's card, which obviously will be a little bit more difficult for a batter to get a hit, or if it will be on the back of the batter's card, which will be a little bit easier for the batter to get a hit based on his ratings.
And your fielding decisions, such as double plays, we were talking about this earlier, those also get essentially decider roles. So it's a step-by-step process and not something that's automatically assumed. Walk us through that.
Yeah, so I tried to make sure that all the player versus player interactions were included in the game. So if you're going to have a runner on first base and let's say you hit the ball to second base, you're going to check the second baseman's fielding, and you're going to go on to the double play chart, which if the second baseman had a 3 fielding, you would roll on that to see if he made the play at second base on the runner on first. With the ball going from second baseman to the shortstop, then you would check the shortstop's fielding to see if he was able to turn the double play and get the runner out at first base.
Mm-hmm.
And those kind of interactions play throughout the game on a player versus player level to kind of get everybody involved. So if you're going to be tagging from second to third on a fly ball that's hit to center field, you would be checking the center fielder's arm against the runner's back of his card, which is based off of his speed, to see if he can get, either tag up to third or get thrown out.
I like it. I like you were showing that to us earlier. I really like it. How long to play an average game?
Of course, there's a little bit of a learning curve, but when I play against friends with, in the league that we play, the average game takes about 33 to 35 minutes.
That's actually not bad.
It's actually really good, and that's with everybody knowing exactly how all the mechanics play out. When I play myself, I could play a game in 18 to 22 minutes.
Wow. But you're the game designer, so
I kind of have an advantage.
If you don't like the rule, you can change it. Also, because you obviously played Strat growing up, and the endless arguments over the 50-50 system. One of the tricky things to get right in any baseball game is that pitcher batter interaction. How did you come up with that system? What did you feel from other games that you can improve on that? Walk us through that.
Well, I talked a little bit about MLB Showdown, and MLB Showdown kind of had a similar mechanic in the way that it chose whether or not it was going to be off of the pitcher's card or the batter's card. Now, the results came about in a way different process than what I do. But they added the batter's number with the pitcher's number and then rolled the die, and depending on the result, it dictated whether it was a pitcher or batter's card. Mine is if it's 6 or above, it's a batter's card, 5 or below, it's a pitcher's card. And basically, the way that I came out with the results on each card, the batter's card is a reflection of his everyday statistics, and the same thing for the pitcher. So basically, if your batter is a home run hitter, you have a better chance of hitting a home run on a batter's card. If the pitcher, it doesn't have a lot of allowed fly balls or he strikes out a lot, that's going to kind of weigh into that. So it was really coming up with a way to find out the pitcher or batter advantage, and that's where I came up with this negative versus positive number. If a batter has the advantage over a pitcher, like let's say it's, like we brought up Frank Thomas earlier. If he has, Frank Thomas obliterated pitchers, right? So if you're looking at the lefty-righty splits in my game, his versus lefty and versus righty, probably a +5 on both. And then the pitcher would be, a -3 or a -5. So you're looking at that advantage. And that's basically how I came up with it to, kind of dictate how much of an advantage the batter has or how much of an advantage the pitcher has.
Is there an era of baseball you're trying to emulate? Are we playing in modern 2021 baseball, home run strikeout derby? Or is there, obviously you were a kid of the 90s, we're going to something a little more balanced, or what's the goal here?
So, I didn't really come out of the box thinking of trying to emulate any particular era. But subliminally, like you said, I'm a kid of the 90s. And when I look back at the statistics of the seasons that my friends and I had, they kind of correlate to like late 80s, mid 90s kind of stats era, which is a nice balance between speed, power, pitching. It kind of had a little bit of everything in there. And I kind of wanted this game to have a little bit of everything in it. So it kind of makes sense that it kind of matches that time frame.
Yep.
Let's talk about the fictional names real quick here. Was that fun? Was that a slog? I mean, when you're sitting there coming up with all these, quote, fake names for these players here, run us through that. Mm-hmm.
Well, one of the things that I wanted to try to not do was duplicate last names. Because I wanted to, if you're kind of keeping stats and, you're tracking everything throughout the course of a career, and just to make it easier on me for player creation, I really didn't want to have the same last name. Well, it turns out I got a couple of Cruzes in the game. I got a couple of, other names. So the duplications did happen.
But there are no Bobby Stantons.
No.
Or Derek Judges or anything like
that. No, we didn't. I didn't go the whole football card route and take out 2 stacks and the top 2 cards gave us a name this time. But no, I mean, it's just coming up, sitting down and coming up with names. Honestly, some of them kind of sound a little strange, but that's just kind of how it works.
No, it sounds like, though, going back to we were talking earlier about the fantasy characters, it sounds like you could come up with some orc names and some orc poses and have your artist or your illustrator design something, and you could do a fun team of orcs or goblins or something.
Thinking about it, my buddy Jason, he plays a game, a football game called Blood Bowl.
Bowl. Okay.
Yep.
And they're based on fictional fantasy characters. And I've had a few people bring up to me, like if I can make a baseball game similar to that. And I said earlier that I'm not really, looking to make any other games. I'm not really that kind of designer. This is just something that kind of evolved over the course of my life. But if I were to do something, it might be to try something out like that. And I've actually been asked whether or not I want to try and make a football game with similar mechanics to this. And it's funny because I actually kind of came up with some things that I could do in a football game. But unfortunately, that football game would probably take 3 hours to play. So I'm not going to do that.
But you could do something really crazy. For example, just throwing out some idea that just came to mind. You could take an orc team. Let's just say you get this expansion team is going to join your league, and they're orcs, okay, and they're from whatever land they're from.
Talking about killing the quarterback.
Yeah,
come on.
Maybe these orcs are just all power hitters with no speed. And then you got a goblin team that's all speed, but they're only single hitters. You know what I mean? So you could bring in, and I played some different games like that where you can choose your team, and it's a fictional game, and it's like, do you want the power hitters? Do you want the speed? Do you want the balance team? So again, because it's a fictional league, it really does open the door to so many different.
It lends itself to so many options. I mean, I could do.
You could have a team that plays on the moon, on Mars. Different galaxies. I'm
drafting the one that's allergic to pineapple pizza.
But yeah, I mean, it just where you have an artist and the whole bit, and you design the cards. I mean, it really is pretty wide open when you think about it.
Yeah, it's, the option is there. And, if I get enough people ask for it, anybody who's listening to this podcast, if they really want it, send me a message. I mean, I don't mind. It's one of those things where it's kind of like it's out of left field. And if enough people want it, I can do it. But the good thing about it is I don't have to print it until somebody buys it either. Right. So it's not like it would put me back anything. So if somebody really wants it, all they got to do is let me know. I'll do something.
There have been some fictional print games out there. Play.com does a set for all their sports of that. There was a game, 20 years ago called When the Grass Was Green, and I don't know if you've ever saw that one or not.
I completely forgot about it, but yeah, my buddy and I, Brad, we actually played that game.
Okay. For those who may not, who either ignore the fictional part of OTP or just kind of go, what would be the selling point for a pure, where there's no emotional attachments? It's a little different from drafting your favorite players to be on your team, with strat leagues and stuff like that. What would be your sales pitch to someone who may be in the how can I enjoy this? I don't know anybody.
Well, something this is your own baseball universe. This is, you make it what you want to make it. These players, you grow attached to these players. Like I mentioned before that I play with the Knights, and like I know from day to day that I can kind of trust Garland. He's going to come out and he's going to have a pretty decent game for me. Or I'm looking for Henderson to get on the mound to stop a losing streak that I have because he's my best pitcher. These players, and you invest into real players throughout your life, and you get disappointed when they get traded or something. But guess what? In this game, you have that control. These players are yours. If you want to sign these guys to long term, you have that ability. I mean, it might not necessarily work out, and that's part of the mechanics of the game, trying to make it into a real league. But this is what you make of it. And I intentionally tried to make it that way because I think there's a lot of games out there and a lot of gamers out there that modify games to make it what they want. Yes. And that's the intention of this game. The intention of this game is to have something that you can modify it into what you want. These players are not contractually bind to any team. You can pull these players. You don't know that Bowerman is on the Gators. You know, if you just take all the cards right out of the base set and put them into a pool and draft them the way you want, like it's completely in your hands. And I think that's one of the reasons why I just kept playing it this way throughout my life. It's one of the reasons why my buddies and I have a league that way, because real baseball is out the window. It doesn't. My buddy's an Orioles fan. You know, he's disappointed every year. Well, he's going to kill me for saying that. But in this game, he won the championship last year. You know, so he invested in his team, and his team actually won, which is probably a feeling he's not going to have for a very long time in reality. So
Fred is laughing at that, for goodness sakes.
So it is what it is. But this game just you actually make connections with these players, and that's one of the reasons why these players are all individuals, and every single card is different, because I want to be able to make connections to those players based on how they perform. Or this guy is great, but he gets injured all the time. What's the deal with that? Like, do I really want to sign him? But I kind of grew to him, that kind of thing. I mean, to me, this is the game that I've been looking for on store shelves when I was growing up, and it wasn't there. Mm-hmm. So marketing this game wasn't something that was a complete intention of mine, because it was just something that I built that my friends and I played. And then I was pushed to do it, and I didn't realize how much of a fan base actually is out there for a game like this. And the pre-orders that I've gotten have been just phenomenal. Like, I never expected any of this to happen, to be perfectly honest.
I'm genuinely surprised at the reaction from it all. But you did also a very good job in promoting it all through the Christmas season. You'd release a new card or an illustration every day, and that's, I wish some of the bigger game companies would market their games the way that you've marketed this.
I appreciate that. My wife is actually a food blogger, so that stuff I've learned from her. So I have her to thank for that.
Okay.
So now you did some videos for this up on YouTube, correct?
I did, yes.
Where can we find those videos? What's your YouTube channel name?
It's On Deck Baseball is the YouTube channel name, but all those videos are actually all under my actual website, which is ondeckbaseballgame.com. There's a dash between the N and the D for On Deck. So I have all those files and everything. Obviously, they're linked to YouTube, but they're all on the website.
Okay, so it's on-deck-baseball.
Game.com.
Game.com. Okay. All righty. So let me see here. So it's available for pre-order right now. So you would order from the website, I assume?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there's two different tabs. There's one that says products, which will actually have a summary of all the different products that are available now. And then there's a store tab that you can actually go on, or I think it says shop, and you can actually go on and purchase the game there. It is still technically the pre-order phase. Launch day is actually tomorrow. But right now I'm shipping pre-orders as I get them, because I was able to complete everything. The pre-order time frame was kind of like a Kickstarter for me. The Kickstarter website, because it allowed me to actually expand into different league expansion sets and the rookies and everything. But once I hit my goals, if I was able to do that, I was going to start sending out the sets early, which I've been able to do in the past week, and all the pre-orders have actually already been sent.
So what's the base game run price-wise?
$85 for the base set. That includes the 6 teams, and then each expansion set that I have is $30. That includes shipping and taxes.
Okay, and the schedule that comes with it is for a full 162, or how does it?
The schedule is developed. When I was on the Facebook page, I did a lot of kind of surveying the community, and some people like to play longer seasons, some people like to play shorter seasons. So the way I developed the schedule is it's a 3-month schedule. Each month only has 24 games in it. So I have 3 different types of seasons. I have a 24-game season, a 48-game season, and a 72-game season. So depending on how you want to play the game, if you want to play it for a while and you want to check it out for a 72, you play all 3 months. If you want to have a short season, only 24 games, you just play 1 month. The other benefit of the way that I built the schedules is that all of the days off correlate for every single team. So if you actually want to play 50 games, all you got to do is just play the first 50 games on the schedule, and all of the teams will match up according to those days.
Awesome.
Very nice. Okay. Ron, any more questions here before we wrap up?
No, it's been fascinating. Good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I think it's fun. I saw some of the videos, and when we talked about some of the gameplay here, I liked how you get the split right off the bat with the pitcher and the batter, and then you roll off the chart, and then you can even see where the ground ball, the fly ball, the line drive go on the field. So all that's laid out with the 10-sided dice on the chart. Very, very easy to follow. Looks like it's very easy to play. Looks like it's very fun to play as well. So anyway, so Ian Brooke, the creator of On Deck Baseball, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Bye-bye. By the numbers, this was episode 82. We had a terrific interview with Ian Brooke of On Deck Baseball. Boy, that game looks fun.
Oh, I think it's one of the most creative efforts I've ever seen, period, in sports gaming. Just tremendous.
Yeah, I mean, he was talking about the Blood Bowl football game, and it's just, it's kind of how this is. I mean, this is more baseball than that is football, but what I mean is the whole fictional universe and how it plays in and the player's age, and wow.
Just so well thought out.
Well thought out. The gameplay looks to be nice and simple, 10-sided dice and grids, and I was following along with the videos he was doing, and I commented, I said, wow, these videos really lay out the game and how great they are.
It is a good, if, strat goes basic, advanced, super advanced, it kind of touches between advanced and super advanced. It really is a deep game.
Yep, it looks really well. So anyway, hopefully you enjoyed that. Ron, thanks for joining me today.
As always.
And we'll talk to everybody later.
Bye-bye.